My name is Sarah, and at 28 years old, I never expected my own family, the people who raised me, to disown me for marrying the man I loved. But what's even more shocking is that years later, after cutting me out of their lives completely, they came crawling back, demanding a share of the $50 million I'd built from nothing. If you're wondering how a family could turn their back on their own flesh and blood, only to reappear with such audacious greed, stick around. This story isn't just about money, it's about love, betrayal, and the shocking truth of what family truly means. Before we dive into this whirlwind, do me a favor. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Hit that like button if you're ready for a story that will make your blood boil and then fill you with a fierce sense of triumph. And subscribe to witness every twist and turn of this unbelievable journey. You won't believe what happens next. My childhood was a tapestry woven with threads of expectation and unspoken rules. We lived in a grand, old house on Maplewood Drive, a place that smelled of polished wood and the faint, lingering scent of my grandmother's expensive perfume. My father, Robert Sterling, was a prominent real estate developer, a man whose word was law in our household. My mother, Eleanor, was the epitome of grace and social standing, her life meticulously curated around charity galas and exclusive club memberships. From a young age, I understood my role, the dutiful daughter, destined to marry well, to uphold the Sterling name, and to never, ever rock the boat. My older brother, Michael, was the golden child, groomed to take over the family business, while my younger sister, Emily, was the quiet, artistic one, often overlooked. I was the bridge between them, always trying to please, always trying to fit into the mold they had so carefully crafted for me. I worked tirelessly to meet their expectations, excelling in school, participating in all the right extracurriculars, always striving for their approval. I was loyal to a fault, always defending my family, even when their judgments felt harsh or unfair. I believed in the sanctity of family, in the idea that blood was thicker than water, that no matter what, we would always have each other. I was generous with my time, my efforts, and later, with my small allowances, always sharing, always putting their needs before my own. I genuinely thought that if I followed their path, if I made them proud, I would earn their unconditional love. I was a good daughter, a good sister, striving for a future that was already laid out for me, a future that promised security and acceptance within the gilded cage of their expectations. Then came David. He wasn't from Maplewood Drive. He was a musician, a passionate, free-spirited artist with calloused hands from playing guitar and eyes that saw the world in vibrant colors, not just shades of gray. He lived in a small, eclectic apartment downtown, a place that smelled of old books and freshly brewed coffee, a stark contrast to the sterile elegance of my family home. Our first meeting was at a small, independent coffee shop, a place I'd snuck off to, seeking a moment of peace from my suffocating schedule. He saw me, truly saw me, not as Sarah Sterling, the heiress-in-waiting, but as just Sarah, a woman with dreams and fears. We talked for hours, about music, about art, about the kind of life we yearned for. Falling in love with David was like breathing for the first time. It was exhilarating, terrifying, and utterly liberating. He represented everything my family stood against: unpredictability, passion over pragmatism, and a life lived on one's own terms. When I told my parents about David, the air in the dining room turned instantly frigid. My father's face, usually composed, hardened into a mask of disgust. A musician? Sarah, have you lost your mind? This is not what we raised you for. This is not the future of a Sterling. My mother's voice, usually soft, was laced with venom. He has no prospects, no family name, no standing. He's beneath us, Sarah. He's beneath you. I tried to explain, to make them understand the depth of my feelings, the genuine connection we shared. I told them he made me happy, truly happy, in a way their carefully planned life never could. But they wouldn't listen. Michael chimed in with condescending remarks about David's lack of ambition, and Emily, usually quiet, stared at her plate, unable to meet my gaze. The argument escalated, voices rising, until my father delivered the ultimatum, his words cutting through me like a knife. Marry him, Sarah, and you are no longer a sterling. You will be disowned. You will have nothing. My heart pounded, a frantic drum against my ribs. My hands trembled, cold sweat prickling my skin. I looked at their faces, rigid with disapproval, devoid of the love I so desperately craved. And in that moment I knew I couldn't sacrifice my happiness, my soul, for their approval. I chose David. We married in a small, intimate ceremony, just us and a handful of his friends, under a canopy of oak trees, far from the grand, cold church my family had envisioned. There were no sterlings present. My father was true to his word. The phone calls stopped. Invitations to family gatherings ceased. My name was erased from their social circles, from their conversations. It was as if I had simply ceased to exist, a ghost in the family narrative. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of the chasm that had opened between us. It was a gut punch, a physical ache in my chest that lingered for months. But even through the pain, there was a quiet defiance, a fierce loyalty to the man I had chosen, the man who had chosen me back, unconditionally. I had lost a family, but I had gained a love that felt more real, more profound, than anything I had ever known. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it was truly mine. The years that followed were a testament to resilience, a slow, arduous climb out of the shadow of my family's rejection. David and I pooled our meager resources, his musical talent and my quiet determination. We lived simply, making every penny count. We rented a tiny apartment above a bustling bakery, the scent of fresh bread a comforting presence. David played gigs in small, smoky clubs, sometimes earning barely enough to cover gas. I took on odd jobs, anything from waitressing to freelance writing, learning to stretch a dollar further than I ever thought possible. There were moments of crushing doubt, days when the weight of our meager existence felt unbearable. I missed the comfort of my old life, the ease of financial security, but never, not once, did I regret choosing David. He was my unwavering support, my creative partner, my anchor in a world that suddenly felt very cold. Our breakthrough came unexpectedly. David had been experimenting with a new sound, blending traditional folk melodies with electronic elements. I, using my latent business acumen, saw its potential beyond the small clubs. I convinced him to record a demo, and with every spare cent, we invested in a small, independent studio. We poured our hearts and souls into that album, working late nights, fueled by cheap coffee and an unshakable belief in each other. 6 months later, a single from that album, Echoes of Tomorrow, was picked up by a small online radio station. Then another. And another. The song went viral, first on independent music platforms, then on mainstream radio. Suddenly, David was no longer just a struggling musician. He was an artist with a rapidly growing fanbase. The album climbed the charts and soon, record labels came knocking. We signed a deal that was beyond our wildest dreams, a multi-million-dollar contract that changed everything. Our success wasn't just David's, it was ours. We built a music empire together, a company that managed artists, produced albums, and championed independent voices. We invested wisely, diversifying our portfolio, and within 5 years, our net worth soared past $50 million. It was a staggering number, a testament to our hard work, our shared vision, and the risks we had taken. We built our dream home, a beautiful, sprawling house with a state-of-the-art recording studio, a place filled with music, laughter, and the warmth of true partnership. We traveled the world, experiencing the kind of freedom and joy I had only ever dreamed of. And through it all, my family remained silent. Not a single call, not a single email, not a single acknowledgement of my existence, let alone my success. The silence was a constant, painful reminder of their rejection, a wound that never quite healed, even amidst all the abundance. I often wondered if they knew, if they saw the headlines, if they felt even a flicker of regret. But I pushed those thoughts away, focusing on the beautiful life David and I had built, a life free from their judgments and their suffocating expectations. Then the phone rang. It was a number I hadn't seen in years, a number I never thought I'd see again, my father's private line. My heart leaped into my throat, a mix of apprehension and a strange, desperate hope. Could it be? After all these years? Had they finally seen the light? Had they come to apologize, to acknowledge the pain they had caused? I took a deep breath, my hand shaking slightly as I answered. Hello. My father's voice, usually so commanding, sounded strained, almost frail. Sarah, it's your father. A wave of emotion washed over me, a complex mix of longing and resentment. What do you want? I asked, my voice colder than I intended. He cleared his throat. We need to talk. It's about the family business. We're facing some difficulties. He then launched into a convoluted story about a series of bad investments, a failing market, and a looming bankruptcy that threatened to wipe out everything. He spoke of losing the Maplewood Drive house, of their social standing crumbling, of Michael's desperate attempts to keep the business afloat. He painted a picture of utter financial ruin, a complete reversal of their once unshakable fortune. My mother then got on the phone, her voice thick with what sounded like tears. Sarah, please. We're desperate. We know we made mistakes. But you're our daughter. Family helps family. Her words, once so powerful, now sounded hollow, manipulative. Then came the punchline, delivered by my father, his voice regaining a hint of its old arrogance. We need your help, Sarah. We need a significant investment to save this sterling legacy. He didn't ask for a loan. He talked about an investment, a stake in my company, a way for them to partner with me. My blood ran cold. My stomach churned. They hadn't called to apologize, to reconcile, to acknowledge their wrongdoing. They had called because they were desperate, because they saw my success, and they wanted a piece of it. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. The disownment, the years of silence, the pain they inflicted, it was all secondary to their financial woes. They saw me not as their daughter, but as a lifeline, a means to an end. It was the ultimate betrayal, a confirmation that their love was conditional, tied inextricably to status and money. And they wanted $50 million. My hands clenched into fists, my heart racing, not with fear, but with a simmering, righteous anger. The audacity, the sheer, unmitigated gall. I felt physically sick, a wave of nausea washing over me as I heard the truth of their intentions. They didn't want me, they wanted my money. And I knew, with chilling certainty, that I had a choice to make, a choice that would define not just my future, but my past. The phone call ended with me promising nothing, only that I would consider their request. But the truth was I was already formulating a plan that would turn the tables on them in a way they would never see coming. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotional turmoil and strategic planning. The initial shock gave way to a cold, calculated anger. I replayed their phone calls, their desperate pleas, their thinly veiled demands, over and over in my mind. The bitterness of their past rejection, combined with their current audacity, fueled a fire within me. David, ever my rock, listened patiently, offering quiet support and unwavering belief in my ability to navigate this treacherous situation. Whatever you decide, Sarah, he told me, I'm with you. I consulted with Mr. Davies, my corporate lawyer, a shrewd, no-nonsense professional who had helped us build our empire. I laid out the entire history, the disownment, my family's current financial distress, and their audacious request. He listened intently, his expression unreadable. It's a delicate situation, Sarah, he advised, but you hold all the cards. They have no legal claim to your assets. He helped me draft a series of legal documents, watertight agreements that would protect my interests, no matter what I decided. There were moments of weakness, fleeting thoughts of giving in, of extending a hand to the family I once loved, even after all they had done. The ingrained loyalty, the childhood yearning for their approval, still lingered like a phantom limb. But then I'd remember the coldness in my father's voice, the venom in my mother's, the years of silence, and the image of David's unwavering support, the true family I had built. My resolve hardened. This wasn't just about money. It was about self-respect, about finally breaking free from the chains of their conditional love. I received increasingly frantic calls and emails from Michael and Emily, their messages a mix of veiled threats and desperate pleas, painting a grim picture of their impending ruin. They tried to guilt-trip me, to remind me of family ties, words that now rang hollow and hypocritical. I ignored them all, focusing on the intricate details of my plan, a plan that would deliver justice, not just financial, but emotional. The plot twist, when it finally arrived, was a culmination of weeks of meticulous planning and a lifetime of suppressed emotion. It was a carefully orchestrated moment, designed not for revenge, but for clarity, for a final, undeniable statement. I arranged a meeting, not at my home, but at Mr. Davies's office, a neutral, professional territory. My parents, Michael, and Emily arrived, their faces etched with worry, but also a glimmer of desperate hope. They assumed I was there to hand them a check, to be their savior. They were wrong. "Thank you for coming," I began, my voice calm, steady, betraying none of the turmoil inside me. "I've considered your request." My father puffed out his chest, a flicker of his old arrogance returning.
"Good. We knew you'd see sense, Sarah."
"Family is everything." My mother nodded, a strained smile on her face. "We always knew you'd come through for us." "Yes," I continued, "family is everything. And that's why I've prepared these documents." I pushed a stack of papers across the table. Their eyes widened, expecting a contract for investment. Instead, they saw something else entirely. "These are documents," I explained, my voice gaining strength, confirming the transfer of ownership of the Maplewood Drive property, the family business, and all remaining assets, to a newly established charitable foundation. Their faces went slack with confusion, then horror. "What are you talking about?" My father spluttered, his voice rising. "This foundation," I explained, "will be dedicated to providing scholarships for underprivileged music students and supporting independent artists. It will also establish a shelter for families facing homelessness, named in honor of my late grandmother, who always believed in giving back, regardless of social standing." I paused, letting the words sink in. "Your assets, which you claim are your legacy, will now truly serve a purpose that aligns with the values I learned from the man you disowned me for marrying, and the values my grandmother truly embodied, not the ones you preached." My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Michael's face turned a mottled red. Emily, for the first time, looked at me with a flicker of understanding, perhaps even admiration. "You can't do this," my father roared, slamming his fist on the table. "That's our money. Our legacy." "No," I replied, meeting his furious gaze without flinching. "It's what's left of your choices. And now, it will do some good in the world, something it never truly did under your stewardship." I then produced the final document, a simple, one-page letter. "And this is a legal document confirming that I, Sarah Sterling, officially renounce all claims to the Sterling name, any inheritance, and any future association with the Sterling family. I am no longer a Sterling. I am Sarah Davies." I signed it with a flourish, my hand steady, my heart finally free. The look on their faces was priceless: shock, disbelief, and a dawning realization that they had not only lost their money, but had also irrevocably lost the daughter they had so carelessly discarded. The power had shifted, completely and irrevocably. I wasn't just taking control of my money, I was taking control of my narrative, my identity, and my future. The confrontation that followed was less a dramatic shouting match and more a stunned, sputtering unraveling. My father, his face purple with rage, launched into a tirade, accusing me of being heartless, ungrateful, and a traitor to my own blood. "You're just like him. That musician. You have no respect for tradition, for family." My mother, her tears now genuine, pleaded with me, her voice cracking. "Sarah, please. Think of what people will say. Our reputation. Michael, usually so composed, was reduced to stammering threats about legal action, which Mr. Davies calmly debunked, citing the ironclad nature of the charitable transfer and my renunciation. Emily, surprisingly, remained silent, her eyes darting between me and our parents, a complex mix of emotions playing across her face. I let them vent, their words washing over me, without sting. Their motivations were laid bare. Not love, not reconciliation, but a desperate, self-serving need to cling to their fading status. They hadn't disowned me for marrying David. They had disowned me for daring to choose a path that didn't serve their interests, for not being the asset they wanted me to be. And now, when their own choices had led them to ruin, they expected me to be their personal bailout. You made your choice years ago, I finally said, my voice quiet but firm. You chose status over family, reputation over love. I chose love. And I built my own legacy, one that doesn't rely on a name or inherited wealth, but on hard work and genuine connection. Your legacy, as you call it, is now serving a purpose far greater than you ever intended. There was no satisfaction in their pain, only a profound sense of closure, of a chapter finally, definitively closed. Justice wasn't about punishing them. It was about freeing myself, about ensuring that their past actions would finally have a meaningful, positive impact on others, rather than simply fueling their own self-importance. Life after that day was a journey of profound healing and authentic growth. The initial emotional exhaustion slowly gave way to a deep sense of peace. The weight of their expectations, the constant yearning for their approval, had finally lifted. I was no longer Sarah Sterling, the disowned daughter. I was Sarah Davies, a woman who had built her own life, her own success, and her own family, defined by love and mutual respect, not by bloodline or wealth. My relationship with David deepened even further, forged in the fires of shared struggle and triumphant success. We continued to build our company, expanding its reach, using our platform to empower other artists and give back to communities. The charitable foundation, now fully operational, became a source of immense pride, a tangible representation of turning pain into purpose. Knowing that the very assets my family had clung to were now funding scholarships for aspiring musicians and providing shelter for families in need brought a satisfaction that money alone could never buy. I learned that true family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty, respect, and unconditional love. It's about showing up, not just when it's convenient, but when it's hard. It's about celebrating successes and supporting through failures, without judgment or expectation of gain. I also learned the profound importance of setting boundaries, even with those you once loved most. Sometimes, letting go of toxic relationships, even familial ones, is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. It's not about vengeance. It's about self-preservation and creating space for genuine connections to flourish. The scars of the past remain, a subtle reminder of the journey, but they no longer define me. They are simply part of the story, a testament to resilience and the power of forging your own path. So, what actionable wisdom can you take from my story? First, never compromise your authentic self for anyone's approval, especially family. Your happiness, your truth, is worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Second, true wealth isn't just measured in money, but in the richness of your relationships and the integrity of your choices. The greatest fortunes are built on values, not just zeros. And finally, sometimes, the most profound acts of justice are not about revenge, but about redirection. Turning negative experiences into positive outcomes for others can be the most powerful form of healing and empowerment. Have you ever faced a similar situation where you had to choose between family expectations and your own happiness? Or perhaps experienced a betrayal that ultimately led to your greatest growth? Share your stories in the comments below. Let's build a community where we can support each other, share our triumphs, and learn from our challenges. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you, and subscribe to join us as we continue to explore the incredible, often heartbreaking, but ultimately empowering stories of human resilience. The conversation has just begun, and your voice is a crucial part of it.